Hi, this is Nick from People Power Press, and today I'm going to be showing you how to use the Flex2000 button maker. It's a great hobby button maker, provides a range of sizes you can make just by adding die sets rather than buying whole new machines, and it also makes a number of the popular smaller size buttons. So it comes with a rotary cutter like this. A lot of people find this tool a little counterintuitive. The thing is, it's going to want to tilt or rotate as you move this handle, and so the way to use this device correctly is just to line it up first and then to position it steadily with your off hand. Move the blade down. Doesn't require a whole bunch of force downward, but just keep it down so that you can go around a couple times to get a nice clean cut of your artwork. And then we get to the button making. Now this machine, okay, the first thing you might notice about this machine is that it's kind of top heavy. So as you pull this handle down, it wants to tilt forward. And it's actually going to require a reasonable amount of pressure to get a button to seal. So the very best way to use this machine is actually there's two bolt holes in the back. If you have a work table where you're going to use it regularly, you can bolt this to the ground, and then it's easier to use because it won't tilt forward. A lot of people won't have that sort of work environment. They might just be using this casually in their kitchen or something like that. And so what you're going to want to do, which is how I'm going to show you using the machine today, is grip it with your off hand to hold it in place when pressing. Okay, so this is set up for a 2 1/4 inch button. Fairly intuitive machine, but as I say, it requires a reasonable amount of pressure to get the button to seal. In the left side, we have a shallower die called a pickup die. We're going to place the shell, the artwork, mylar on top, swivel that underneath the upper die, the pressing die, and press it together. Now you really feel that shell lodging up in the upper die, so most people don't struggle with that. When you go to the second press, the pin back in the crimp die, there isn't quite that snap feeling, and you just have to hold it down to make sure that the button's sealed. Now one thing you might notice about this button maker, this one I've just lined the shell or the artwork and the pin back up with these rear pegs, and you'll notice that the back isn't quite in line with the artwork. If you watch this going side by side, once the shell and artwork are up here, once you move to the pickup die, it actually shifts it by about 15 degrees. And so just lining up everything with the rear pegs won't create a perfect button. Now this will probably hang fine, but especially if you're doing something else with the machine like a keychain or using keychain parts for something that hangs, you'll want to get that more square. And so the one thing you can do is, instead of lining the artwork up with the rear peg, I will just shift it about 15 degrees so that when it shifts in the upper die, it moves back in place to compensate. So instead of lining up the artwork with the rear peg, I've just set it about 15 degrees clockwise. And then in that second press, it's lined up perfectly with the artwork. So I'll just go through what most people struggle with this device and where people go wrong with this. As I say, when you do this first press, you can really feel it in place. People do that fine. When you go to this second press, it requires a fair amount of pressure, and if I just do this sort of lightly, it sort of feels like it's all the way down there. But yeah, it just hasn't pressed, and actually the shell stayed in the upper die. In the second press it actually sealed, but yeah, that's the problem most people have, just not enough pressure in this second die. Bringing it all the way down Lightly is probably not going to get the button to seal. You have to put a reasonable amount of pressure and hold it there to get it to seal. Okay, so the mechanism is exactly the same in other sizes. I'll just go over how to change the die set. There are 3 components to the die set here. As I say, the pickup die, the crimp die, the upper die. To take it out, the handle needs to be down. So move the handle down and it'll just slot out, and you'll have room once the other 2 dies are out of there. So the changing the die, they have to go on in the same way. If you try to put this on in the wrong way, you'll feel it won't sit snug unless it's backwards. These back pegs have to be to the rear of the machine to adjust the position of that upper die. So it's always the pickup die on the left side, the crimp die on the right side, and then again the handle has to be down to get this upper die in place. So you'll probably have to take out one of them, move the handle down, slot that in, and then slot in the other die. And so there, this machine would now be set up to make 1 3/4 inch buttons with this die set. So a lot of value for money in that you can make a variety of sizes just by buying these die sets separately. You don't need to add a new machine, but it's a little fiddly in that you have to really feel for where the button's pressing. A reasonable amount of pressure, especially in that second press, required to make the button seal. Thanks a lot.